creatine as part of our training regime, or is it just really an unnecessary add-on and marketing hype? When it comes to supplements, creatine is often synonymous with bodybuilding. We think of the big, bulky guys, the scoops of all of the protein and the creatine to get really big, don't we? But what about us triathletes? Complete opposite end of the body stereotypical spectrum of what we should look like compared to bodybuilders and triathletes. So should we be considering creatine as part of our training regime, or is it just really an unnecessary add-on and marketing hype? I'm going to have a look at that today for you. One of the biggest misconceptions about creatine is that it's going to make us gain that weight, so really bulk up like the bodybuilders. That's absolute rubbish. To be bulking up like a bodybuilder, you need to be pumping iron every single day and doing a lot of it at max weights and be really, really dedicated. You need to be eating loads of food. That's not what we do in triathlon. Even if you are weight training with heavy weights in triathlon training, you're not going to bulk up, let's face it. It's not going to happen. The truth is the creatine doesn't actually directly cause the weight gain. It's actually more about how our bodies are responding to it. You might find that some people are taking creatine and say, oh, I put on so much weight, but actually it's a bit more of water retention where our muscles retain the water, and because of that it can feel like you've got a temporary increase in your weight where it's just water. So disregard the scales. I always say to my athletes, please just throw away your scales. They're irrelevant. Let's not even look at them. If there is a temporary increase in weight when you are taking creatine, it's not fat, okay? Don't panic. It's actually beneficial for your muscles to have more water in, and then they can get bigger and stronger. So another common concern is that creatine is only really useful for short, hard bursts and effort. So the really big intervals, your VO2 max power intervals, a bit like your weightlifting and your sprinting. But we do training like that in triathlon as well, even if you're going long distance. But while it's true that creatine does really excel in those areas, it's not the whole story. So research has actually shown that creatine has a really positive impact in endurance athletes like us doing triathlon, particularly during our high intensity segments of our exercise. So our training intervals and then in your racing, particularly if you're doing a drafting race and you're on the back of somebody's wheel and you want to make a sprint forwards, that creatine is really going to help you there. What you've got to bear in mind is that in the triathlon community, creatine is quite often frowned upon. People are like, oh no, it's a bit bodybuilderish, so I'm not going to take it. It can actually be really good for endurance sports, but the truth is that it can benefit all athletes across the board, not just the muscle-bound gym rats that you see. It's really good for your brain function. Some hypothesize that it aids the cognitive function of your brain by improving the energy supply to your brain and also neuroprotection as well. So it can be really, really beneficial cognitively, which you do need at the end of an endurance race and all the way through, to be honest. It helps with your brain health, it helps with your brain function, it helps with your memory, your intelligence, but also your reasoning, and that's really important towards the end of our triathlons. When we take creatine, our muscles are able to replenish their energy stores more quickly, which means we can perform at that higher intensity for longer, but it's especially useful during those higher intensity intervals where we're pushing ourselves to the limit during a tough workout or a race. And again, that mental and cognitive benefit comes into that because you really need to be in the right headspace and be really mentally strong and switched on to be able to push through those intervals. Otherwise, you're just going to give up. Let's move on in terms of recovery. Creatine has been shown to reduce muscle soreness and fatigue after exercise, which is really good. That's a game changer for us triathletes who often have to train multiple times a week, twice a day, more sometimes, and then we need to be able to bounce back quickly from intense workout. So if you're doing lots of triathlon training and you're doing a full-time job or you're busy with something else as well, then creatine can be really good in terms of your recovery and in terms of keeping you switched on, because when we get tired, we can feel like we're slowing down mentally sometimes as well. So it's got a kind of double benefit for you there. Research has also shown that creatine can have a positive impact on our power output, and our endurance training during exercise. So in one study, athletes who took creatine for 6 weeks saw a significant improvement in their muscle power and their endurance during high intensity cycling. If you are going long distance, this is really good for you. Another study found that creatine supplementation improved running performance in highly trained athletes. So we're talking about 3 to 5% improvement in a 30k running time, which is huge, especially when you consider that the athletes in this study were already highly trained athletes with a high level of fitness. So actually to get that amount of gain when you're already at the peak of your sport is huge, and that's got a lot to be said for it. And then in a final third study, the creatine was shown to reduce the time it takes for athletes to recover from their high intensity exercise, Again, massive advantage for us triathletes where we need to recover quickly in between our training sessions, and then also after our racing too, because we squash all our racing into summer, so we quite often get tempted into doing too many races, don't we? So it can be an added benefit for us there. So that's a really quick look at creatine. So thank you so much for joining me. Do like and please subscribe to my channel, and I will bring you more information similar to this. And don't forget to check out my other videos, specifically on the Ironman rules if you're racing Ironman, so you don't get caught out on anything there. Thanks everyone, speak to you soon, bye bye.